Well, we've all heard that saying that if at first you don't succeed, try again. Well, that phrase may be more important than you think.
It turns out failing could be leveraged into future success. Mary Abbajay from Careerstone Group is here to tell us. Now, everybody hears the saying that Doug said, try and try again, but sometimes when you fail, that's the last thing you want to hear.
That's exactly right. Failure is hard. It's not pretty. It's not pleasant. Nobody actively seeks to fail, because if you would, you'd be just a sucker for punishment. But failure is a fact of life, and we actually probably fail more often than we really think about. So the ability to recover from failure and learn from it are essential skills for success.
Maybe this is just hard for me because I've never failed. I just don't understand what you're saying.
Natasha. You want me to tell you where you failed?
No. Let's use her as a case.
No,
let's not use her as a case.
There's a great
I was in
book.
control of this.
There's a great book I read a long time ago called Necessary Losses by Judith Viorst. Everybody should read this book. But it's loss or failure is basically loss. And we all have a series of losses in our life. It starts with being born, because when you're born, you lose the comfort of that nice cozy womb that you were in.
Yeah.
And you gotta
like this real world.
You gotta deal with a new place, and then say 5 years later, you got to go off to your first day of school. You lose mom, you lose your house, and
then you have sisters and you lose your room.
Everything new has an ending.
Right.
All creation has a destruction.
And in order for you to be successful in life, you have to get past.
You have to get past that. In order to find out what works, you often have to go through what fails, what doesn't work. I mean, it was Thomas Edison that said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that didn't work." So you have to figure that out.
That's a good way of putting it.
But failure in America is really hard, because in America, our whole culture is about succeeding, right? Our whole culture is about success. We don't honor the second places. We honor the winners. We're very competitive. It's also hard because failure can have consequences. Some of them very large, some of them very small. But if you fail your marriage, there are consequences for you and the children.
Oh, yeah.
And thirdly, which is I think Natasha's block on her failure, is that it's hard on the ego.
Yeah.
And it comes up with a lot, and it brings a lot of emotional baggage in it. And that's what really, I think, waylays people when they fail, is that emotional, like, slap in the face.
The other thing I think, and this might hold true more on the job front right now and in the job market, what we're dealing with right now, is that you fail, maybe you don't get that job, you thought you had it all wrapped up, it was a sure thing, but you never know why.
You never
can get that feedback. And I think that's what, that haunts a lot of people.
Well, but
why not me, you know?
Well, here's the thing, you can get that feedback, and that's a perfect example of when you fail. If you're going to learn from your failure, if you're going to recover it, one of the things you have to do is you have to really interrogate reality. You have to really look at what happened that contribute to your failure. And so I would say there's 3 areas you want to look at. One, you want to look at the things that were under your control. What did you wear to the interview? What stories did you tell? Did you ramble? Were you doing this and fidgeting?
How did you hold yourself?
How did you hold yourself? What did you do? And then the second area you want to look at is things that you can influence. Like, let's say that you started a business that failed. Well, you know what's under your control. What wasn't under your control but under your influence, like other people? And how did you contribute to that dynamic? And then thirdly, if you want to look at failure and learn from it, you have to look at those things that were out of your control but nonetheless had a factor.
That's the key, I think.
And that's the key. And you can't control those things, but sometimes you can plan for them. For example, let's say you start a business and it didn't work and it failed. And let's say right when you started your business, the stock market crashed, or this happened, or you have an outdoor business and you had a monsoon for 3 months. There are things that you can look at to say, what in the environment kind of
contributed to it?
Are there things I could have done to assess that? Is there worst case scenario planning I could have done? And what would I do next time? That's the key. What could I try to do differently next time to mitigate some of these unforeseen?
There's another expression, and you don't have to be a spiritual person for it to apply to you, really. When God closes one door, He opens another. And I have definitely found that to be true in my life.
It may not be
I didn't
exactly
get that job
the same
that I
time,
wanted, but then I didn't get the job. Somebody else got it, and I find that the company that was going to hire me folded 2 months later.
Exactly.
Or something like this. Boy, I'm glad I didn't get that
Yeah, it
job.
didn't make sense at the moment.
And what you talk about is really about the ability to remain resilient. And resiliency relies on hope. Right? So if you can deeply believe that when one door closes, another door is open, what you're really saying is that you believe in hope, that you're hoping for another opportunity, that you're resilient, and that you're ready to walk through another door and recognize it. I think that is absolutely key for recovering from failure.
But that takes some conscious thought, doesn't it?
Does.
I'm going to take a positive outlook about it. I'm going to be positive about this.
It's hard to be positive, and I think the other difficult thing is just evaluating yourself. You mentioned that just a second ago. I think that's the hardest thing. you know, I mean, you have to be hard on yourself.
You do.
Maybe that's where friends come in, or spouses, to be like, this is what happened.
And that's a great idea, because you have to really admit your own mistakes, and that's really hard. We like to blame other people,
yes.
and it's really hard.
It's easier.
It's really hard to own your own contribution. So using a spouse, a trusted friend, a business coach, a colleague, a mentor to really help you interrogate your actions, what you did, your assumptions, your inferences, your strategies, and really say, you know what, Doug, it might have been better if you tried this. Or Natasha, maybe you could try it differently next time. But you don't fail. So.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for bringing that up.
The comedian Steve Martin, in his autobiography, wrote
that
about
was a good
his first time he had his heart broken.
Yeah.
And he came into work, I think it was at Knott's Berry Farm, where he was doing a stand-up act or something like that. Came in and told his boss, you know, that he had been dumped and was just heartbroken. His boss said, kid, that'll happen a lot.
That's the first of many.
Well, and the truth is, people actually, some social psychologists will say that people learn more from failure than they do from success. Because when you succeed, you're not tested. Like you put something out there and it works great. Let's say you have a great first date, right? You take this person out somewhere, everything's great. If you infer from that all you got to do is take this date to this restaurant and follow this sequence, you haven't learned anything. You've only learned that something you did worked.
And I think you appreciate it more.
Oh, I think you do too.
Not that I want to admit it, but there have been failures. And at the time, you go crazy and you hate it, and you know, you just pour over it and think about it till, you know, it's just dead and gone. But then you appreciate where you are. I mean, this could be for anything, especially jobs. You're like, wow, I didn't think this would happen.
And you have to, go ahead.
I was going to say, what happens in those cases where somebody can't get over, you know, that failure, and they obsess about it?
Well, then they will become stuck. They'll become sort of dead in the water. They'll become risk averse. They will be stuck in their own process, and they're not going to necessarily progress. It might take them a while. If you find someone in your life who's stuck like that in a failure, who just can't get over, who just can't get out from under the emotional impact or that feeling of failure, you have to help them reframe the failure. Reframe it from a failure to what you said, an open door, an opportunity to learn. Because if you don't take that step to look at that failure, you're A, bound to repeat the same mistakes. History shows us that. And B, you're bound never to try again. And that's really a shame, because I think people are capable of doing remarkable things. And remarkable people are willing to fail.
We're out of time, but do you think that people tend to be impatient too? Sometimes time just
we want it now. That's our society.
Absolutely. Let time do its job.
So be positive. Just don't be overly positive. I don't like those crazy optimists.
You don't want the Pollyannas?
I don't like the Pollyannas. But you're good. You're good.
Thank you.
Mary, thanks for coming back on.